Well, welcome back to the channel. We're back on our Avatar Commander deck profile to Aang and Katara. For 3, a green, a white, and a blue, you get a 5/5, where whenever Aang and Katara enter or attack, create X/1/1 white ally creature tokens, where X is the number of tapped artifacts or creatures you control. So we have a whole bunch of artifacts and creatures that'll tap for some mana, making sure we keep getting Aang and Katara out. Some ways to make sure we double up those tokens because we're going to be creating a whole bunch at once, and that'll just give us that many more ally creature tokens that'll be tapped at a later time to then just create more and more creature tokens for us. Um, we have ways to just benefit off of having a lot of creatures on the board, some things that benefit off of having like allies enter a whole bunch as well. Just a whole bunch of fun things. Unless you're part of the Zutara camp, which, maybe I am, then it's not so much of a fun deck. But that's just a general overview of the deck. Let's get into it card by card. Starting us off, we have Ashnod's Altar, sacrifice a creature, add 2 colorless mana. We're going to be creating a bunch of allies. We're not going to always need them on the board. More the merrier, but not all of them necessarily. So being able to sacrifice them for that mana is super helpful. Conjurer's Closet makes it so Aang and Katara can enter at the end phase. This way, when they enter, all your creatures are tapped from that combat you had a little bit earlier in the turn, and then you just get that many more ally tokens, and that's that many more tokens that you have to block with for that turn. Halo Fountain, you could untap a lot of creatures and potentially create more tokens. Untap 2 to get some draw power. On tap 15, you just win the game, which is not going to be that difficult to have 15 tap creatures in the deck, especially because we have a bunch of ways to make sure we tap those creatures in ways other than just swinging with them. Lightning Greaves, we want to make sure we attack with Aang and Katara the turn they come in. This way, we could get that ability off the turn they come down. Well, really twice the turn they come down, because enters, then attacks, that's twice. Panharmonicon, if an artifact or creature entering would cause an ability to happen, happens at additional time. So, why create X/1/1 tokens when you create 2X? It just makes more sense. Well, unless you have ways to tap them before like the second ability resolves, because then that'll be a lot more tapped creatures. And then, maybe you have a way to do it. Skull Clamp, I don't think we have a way of doing this deck, but I'm saying like if you have a way, it could be fun. Skull Clamp, whenever a equipped creature dies, draw 2 cards. Just put this onto one of your allies for the equip 1, draw 2. We got a Pot of Greed right here. Soul Ring for some additional mana. Swiftfoot Boots, in order to make sure any card could attack could attack the turn they come down. I don't know why I was struggling with my words there. White Lotus Tile, enters tapped, but that doesn't really matter because like we want it tapped for Aang and Katara's ability. You then tap it to add X mana of any one color where X is the greatest number of creatures you control. That creature type in common. We're going to be having a bunch of allies on the board thanks to Aang and Katara's ability. So that's going to be a lot of mana that we're going to use in order to spend it in some other way, shape, or form. For our creatures, we have Adrix and Nev, twin casters. If one or more tokens we create under your control, twice that many created instead. So, when I said we get 2x, now we're up to 4x, thanks to Panharmonicon. Birds of Paradise, good mana dork. Most of our mana in this deck comes from our creatures. This way, we have that many more tapped creatures to happen when Aang and Katara come down. Bloom Tender, for each creature for each color among permanents you control, add 1 mana of that color. It tends to just be 2 because you don't really have that many blue permanents in this deck, but still, another tapped creature, tapping for 2 mana. We like to see it. Creative Behemoth, our main win con for this deck. We're going to be creating a bunch of creature tokens. May as well get a Creative Behemoth onto the board this way. They're all 20/20s rather than just 1/1s. And also Trample. Trample's always nice. Lighted Halfling, another mana dork. Also makes it a one we cast Aang. He's not just going to get countered and not get the ability when he gets on the board. Earth King's Lieutenant, Trample. Whenever another creature enters, put a +1/+1 counter on each other allied creature you control. Whenever this creature enters, put a +1/+1 counter on each other allied creature you control, buffing up our allies just a little bit. And whenever another ally you control enters, put a +1/+1 counter on this creature with how many tokens are going to be creating Aang and Katara. That's going to be that many more +1/+1 counters on him. And with that trample, that's going to be a lot of damage to our opponent's face. Elvish Mystic, another mana dork. Enduring Vitality. Main way to make sure we're tapping our creatures for mana. We can't tap them the turn they come down. That's fine, but because tap all of our allies for mana the next turn, blink Aang and Katara, get a lot of more tokens. That means more mana. Exalted Sunborn, we have a bunch of ways to double up the number of tokens we're creating. Exalted Sunborn, really good card to have Edge of Eternities to do just that. You can also warp it in for just 2 mana, because sometimes you just need for like the turn that Aang and Katara come down and get all those tokens. Let's see it. Hada Freeblade, whenever Hada Freeblade on our ally enters the battlefield, put a +1/+1 counter on its creature. Same thing as Earth King's Lieutenant, just worse. Well, a little bit worse. Doesn't have trample, so it's definitely worse, actually. Hakoda's Selfless Commander. The top card of your library anytime. Cast ally spells from those cards. Let's see it. This way we can keep on getting those spells. Then you can also sacrifice him. Creatures you control get +0/+5 and gain indestructible. This way we're not as susceptible to board wipes with this deck, which we are still quite susceptible. Harabaz Druid. Add X mana of any one color to your mana pool or X number of allies you control. That's gonna be a lot of mana. We tap them all for mana. We create that much more mana with Harbaz Druid. Yeah, I think you're having enough mana to do whatever you want. Hero of Goma Fata enters or another ally enters battlefield under control. Creatures control gain indestructible. Just a good way to make sure, like when when we're able to blink Aang and Katara, we can make all of our creatures indestructible, making us not so susceptible to board wipes. Inga and Asika, another way to make sure our creatures can all tap, other than just attacking, tapping them for mana. Whenever you cast a creature spell, if 3 or more mana is spent from creatures, you get to draw a card as well. I think we're going to be doing that every so often. By every so often, I mean a lot of often. Jahira, another way to make sure our tokens are tapping for that mana, even if it's just our ally tokens, that's still a lot more tapped creatures. Kabira, Evangel, enters or another ally enters under your control. Choose a color. Allies you control gain protection, making so they could swing in a lot easier. Or, just hexproof is essentially what it is for certain colors. Katara the Fearless, if an ability of an ally would happen, happens at additional time, doubling up our ally abilities, such as like Aang and Katara's. This way you get double up the number of tokens. Now we're up to 8x. In terms of how many tokens we're creating. Katara, Water Tribe's Hope, enters, create a 1/1 ally creature token, another way to get more allies on the board. And a Waterbend X, creatures you control have base power and toughness XX until end turn. X can't be 0, so you can't like board wipe yourself. But you tap all of your creatures for that mana. That's that many more creatures that are tapped for Aang and Katara's ability. Then all of your creatures are like 20/20s. The ones that are still able to swing in on your opponent. Llanowar Elsewhere, another mana dork. Mondrak, Lord Dominus, good token doubler, also able to sacrifice some artifacts or creatures, mostly creatures with his stack, in order to make himself indestructible. Noble Hierarch for another mana dork. Ogier Tak, why stop at doubling our tokens when we could triple them? Mondrak puts us at 16x, and then Ogier Tak puts us at 48x. So, even if we only have one tap creature in all of our token doublers so far, that's 48 tokens you're getting. When he's swinging with Aang and Katara the next turn, because someone didn't board wipe you, you're going to be able to create 48 more because they're all tapped for mana. 48 times 48, so 48 squared at that point, actually. Right? No. Yeah, no, 48 times 48, yep. Undo Cleric, enters the battlefield under your control, gain life equal to the number of allies you control. People tend to want to swing on you when you have a lot of tokens because there's like, oh, what are you going to do? Block with all your tokens? No, that'll put me a lot behind. So, getting that life later in the game will help us out. Roaming Drone, in order to double up on our allies' abilities, similar to what Katara is trying to do. Seagate Lore Master, or draw a card for each ally you control. I just like the aspect of being able to deck ourselves out without a Dass's Oracle or a Laboratory Maniac on the board, so this helps us do just that. Tajuru Archer, in order to destroy all of our opponent's creatures with flying, but our opponent's playing birds, they're in a tough spot with this card. Tajuru Warcaller, enters or another ally enters, creatures control get +2/+2 till end of turn. This way when Aang and Katara swing, we get those 48 squared creature tokens. That's 2 times 48 squared. You do the PEMDAS still. So you do the 48 squared, then you times by 2 for that much more stats. And then turn Ember Ranger, and we're getting a bunch of wolves more. We're getting our allies. So it's 48 squared wolves, but it's also 48 wolves, right? Yeah. No. So it's 48 squared wolves times 48, because you're times it by 48 again, thanks to all of our doublers. Yeah, so it's 48 to the third cubed. If you want, yeah, get technical. Enchantments, we have Anointed Procession, another way to double up our tokens. Now we're up to 96 just by creating one token. Cripple right in order to tap our creatures for mana other than just the way we normally would. Dazzling Theater, in order to give our spells Convoke. This way we could tap our creatures for that mana, making so when Aang and Katara come in, we get that much more, many more tokens. Doubling Season and Parallel Lives, once again, a couple more ways to double up our tokens. So we're at 96, this puts us at 192, and this puts us at 384. Teleportation Circle, another way to blink Aang and Katara. They come back, we get that many more tokens. We like tokens, let's keep on making tokens. There we go. For our instance, we have an offer you can't refuse for a counterspell, so we can counterspell our opponent's board wipes. Chord of Calling, in order to search your library for a creature card with mana value X or less. Maybe probably look for like Katara or our Creator of Behemoth if we're at that point in the game. Depends where you're at in the game in terms of like what you're looking for. You also put it right onto the battlefield, so you don't have to worry about casting it. Unless Convoke, so like if you put Aang and Katara on the battlefield after that, yeah. Clever Concealment for more protection for our creatures. Eerie Interlude to blink Aang and Katara, so we get that many more tokens. Ephemerate, another blink spell. Essence Flux for another blink spell. Grand Crescendo, we're going to be having a lot of mana, so using all that mana to give all of our creatures indestructible, plus creating that many more tokens. We'd like to see it. Heroic Intervention for some more protection. Mana Drain for a counterspell to counteract our board wipes. March of the Multitudes, convoke our creatures, getting that many tapped creatures for Aang and Katara's ability. Then get that many more soldier tokens with lifelink this time around. Part of Gust for a blink spell. Path to Exile for a removal spell. Second Harvest in order to double up the number of tokens we have. You know, unless you have like a doubler, then you're quadrupling. And then Swords to Plowshares for another removal spell. Nothing really special in terms of lands. I always like to say, you spend $100 on lands, you can spend $5 on lands. All depends what your budget is. Planeswalkers, Elspeth, Stormslayer, another way to double up our tokens. We're at 196, so we're 392? Wait, I feel like I messed up somewhere. So we didn't, no, because we tripled at one point. Anyway, we're at double whatever I said the last time. Shamanic Reclamation, in order to draw a card for each creature you control, draw 96 cards for those 96 tokens you have. Rampant Growth for some drop, or some ramp. Raise the Palisade, or to Cyclonic Rift our opponent without having to run Cyclonic Rift. Nature's Lore for some ramp, Farseek for some ramp, and Distant Melody for a lot of draw power for all his allies we have. This deck is technically considered a 2. I think it's closer to a 3 range just because of like how many creatures getting. You could definitely improve it, like running Teferi's Protection, Ristic Study, some other cards that like fit in a game changer, like a lot of things. But I just wanted to build this one like a little bit, you know, more fun for like what we enjoy. But that's the deck there. If you guys enjoyed the video, make sure you like the video. If you want to see more like this, make sure you like, comment, subscribe so you can stay tuned for more. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you have a great day.